Hello there. I'm down at Brixham Harbour this afternoon, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little bit unusual, and I'm going to pole fish in the sea for Ballan wrasse and for corkwing wrasse. I'm using 6-metre poles that I've adapted for this type of fishing, and pretty soon I'm going to be joined by my friend Michael Head. In the meantime, let's have a look at the harbour, which is really quite a beautiful place. So, tackle I'm using today is a 6-metre pole, and it's telescopic. So on this one you haven't got to worry about unscrewing the bottom and then taking the other sections out from there. It just comes up, and all we do for here is I've got a link which I've tied a loop knot at both sides, and on here there's a snap link. You'll notice there's a little bit of aquarium tubing as well. That just helps to keep the tackle nice and straight. You come up to the other end, and here is a connector that I can join my main line to. So I'm going to take my snap swivel and I'm going to connect that to the eye at the top. And that's the first part done. The next part, I'm going to need some 15-pound line. You can use heavier, but there's no real need to. So I'm just going to take the 15-pound line here. I like these because you can slide the line off nice and easily. So to the end here, I'm going to connect this up to the connector. So I'm going to do a blood bite loop, which is very, very simple. You could just use an ordinary loop knot, but all you do, you start out as if it was a loop knot, then you go through the middle of it. Now that would be an ordinary loop knot, but here I'm going to turn that back and go through the middle of the loop once again, and then when I pull that tight, it makes a nice, strong, fairly straight connection. Trim off the excess, and then from here I just open up that little connector. Not always as easy as you think it's going to be. And that one, the loop slides on that end of the connector, and then the sheath comes down and that clicks over and holds the loop in place. So there's the line connected. So now I'm going to run out the whole length of the pole. It's a 6-metre pole. As I run it out, I'm just going to bring the nylon back. And I'm going to bring that nylon level with the end section here. So 5/6 the length of the pole. Doesn't really matter what size pole you're using. In actual practice, all you got to do is make sure that you run it the length of the pole up to the end section. Now with this one, these floats are quite small. So you start by putting on a really tiny bead which has got a very small hole in it, much smaller than the normal ones we use. Next thing you do, you thread on your float. These are THK fish bobbers, taking 5 grams of weight, which I get in packs of 10 from Amazon. They're actually pretty good. Pop that on. One more bead. £5 weight, which is the maximum this float will take. And then I slide on another bead, and the next thing that I do is tie on a swivel, and the swivel I'm going to tie on using a revised grinner knot. Now, if you haven't tied a revised grinner knot before, you go around the line 3 times. You then tuck the end through the first loop, just as if you were doing a 3-turn blood knot, a very weak one admittedly, and you pull it into a semicircle. And then you go 3 times around the doubled strands. And the next thing to do is to pull up on the tag end and then pull down on your line. Trim it off, and there's the first part of your tackle sorted. Now, it's probably not going to catch that on this kind of footage, but I have done a separate video which is all about tying the revised grinner and tying the original grinner for that matter, and you can find that if you look on www.devonfishingguides.co.uk and you go to the video page. All my videos are there, and you'll see there's one for tying the knot. So the next thing that I've got to do is I'm just going to tie a trace to the swivel, and I'm going to put a hook on the end of that trace. Same knot again, so revised grinner, very small, very neat, very tidy. But the other advantage of the revised grinner is it puts the tag end straight up the line. Nothing sticking out the side to jab the fish in the mouth, and it's just much better. So once I've done that, always wet your knots. If you don't, the chances are that you're going to get heat damage from the friction, and that's not going to help anyone. And then finally, I'm going to tie on my hook. For this type of fishing, there's always a chance of mini species. So I've got a very tiny hook. It's actually a size, well, it's a size 12 to 14. Tied on the same way. Same grinner knot. Now the length of this trace, what I've done, I've made it the same length as the bottom section of pole before I cut it. So after I cut it and tie the knots in it, it would just be a few inches shorter. And that is the majority of the tackle done. The last thing that I've got to do is tie a stop knot. And then as the bead rides up, the bead will stop against the stop knot, and that will trap the float in position. So, you can tie this in ordinary nylon. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to use some ESO fishing cotton. Much thinner. However you tie your stop knots, entirely up to you. All I'm going to do is lay the cotton at the side. I'm going to bring it round in a circle, and then I'm going to wrap it 5 times, going over the ESO line and over the Wrasse main line as well. It is a bit fiddly. Nylon is much stiffer and easier to tie than this. I will put a link in the video to some artwork demonstrating exactly how this one is tied. It actually slides much less easily than the nylon, and also being cotton, you can cut it, leave it a little bit longer, and unlike nylon, it's completely biodegradable quickly. Nylon takes about 18 months, can do quite a lot of damage if you leave it in there. So we'll pick up all our little pieces of nylon before we go, put them in the bucket and make sure we get rid of those. So that now is the tack off. So there's my stop, there's the little bead, there's the float, there's the weight. So now what I need to do is see if I can get the plummet to the right depth. So one of the first things you've got to do when you're pole fishing, just like if you're pole fishing in fresh water, is you need to check the depth. And for that I do exactly what the coarse anglers do, and I use a plummet lead. Now if you haven't used a plummet before, you simply get the hook, put it through the eye of the plummet, so the plummet is just sliding on the line, and then you turn the hook round and you embed it into the cork. Now obviously a big weight like that is just going to sink the float, so let's have a look and see. Now that sunk the float down about 3 feet below the water. So if I find my stop, which is just here, and I'm going to slide that approximately 3 feet along. Now we'll put the float back in the water and see if it sinks again. Sunk it about 2 feet then. We want it to be about 6 inches off the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is find that stop once more, and I'm going to push it about 18 inches up. Try it again. Now that's dead depth. The float is on the surface. So now what I need to do, I want this to be about 6 inches off the bottom. So I need to find that stop once again. And if I move it just a few inches down, now it should just take the float under. That sank the float about 6 inches, which means it's set to an absolutely perfect depth for wrasse. 6 inches off the bottom. Let's put some bait on and see what happens. Okay, well, once it's baited up and the depth has been found, with this tackle it's literally a question of swinging it out. You can bring it back and then you can just hold it comfortably. If you put your knee out, you can rest the pole across the top of the knee. And then if you watch the float just there, if you get a bite, it'll shoot under quite dramatically. And then we'll see what happens. One thing that can happen is occasionally your hook will get caught in the weeds. If that happens, just collapse the pole, and at that point you can get hold of the elastic and you can pull your tackle free. Once you've done that, just ship the pole again and you're ready to fish. What you don't want to do is any of this arm-wrenching nonsense as if your pole was a crane. That is the way to break them. I've seen people do it, never done it myself, but it's best not to. go. Told you it was depth.
How deep was that?
Now this one is a cork queen. Just stop, my friend. As you can see, just from the little stripes down the side of its face here, that's what makes out your cork queen. Beautiful little fish. He's eyeing up Michael. There we go.
What was that? You want to see a bigger fish?
This one is also a cork queen.
Come down and have a look at it. Right, is your GoPro on?
Yeah, my GoPro's on. So there you go. And those are the distinguishing marks down the side there. Michael, bring the landing net over towards me, please. There's a lot of people throw wrasse back in, or throw a lot of sea fish back in, but it is so much kinder to do it with the landing net.
Oh, he's laid down.
He's got comfy.
He's been there an hour.
He's saying, I'm going to make myself comfortable.
Well, hurry up and catch something for it.
That's what he's waiting for.
He's waiting because he knows at,
Yeah.
at the end of the night,
Well, put it
any
this way,
bait we haven't used will
if
feed
the
it.
seagull's got faith in you,
Yeah, he's quite tame.
Yes,
he was there a minute ago and he was acting as my pole rest. He went and stood underneath my pole, so I lent my pole on the back for a second and he just stayed there.
Oh, come on, you've got to catch him a fish now.
It's not right to feed him the fish, but we'll give him the bait at the end of the evening.
Yes, yeah.
oh,
Because
He knows.
I mean, that's a character, isn't it? You know,
We call him-
he's using his brains.
We call him Salty Sid. Have you ever watched Mortimer and Whitehouse go fishing?
yes,
Yes.
And they've got Ted the dog.
yeah.
We've got Salty Sid.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to
That's
send.
just amazing. Take a photograph of that.
Yes, I'd like to send it to you. And
You don't get that.
Oh, he's definitely been very persistent.
you won't
That's
get that in
exactly what it's there
Anglesey.
for.
No, you have to adapt the poles. So when the poles come along, they've got these little tiny freshwater rings on the end, which are useless for sea fishing. So what I do is, the first thing is I rip those out. And so I rip those out, and I take a bit of stainless steel wire, about 6 inches long, and I just fold it in half and turn the end down to make a little loop. And then I whip that onto the end. And of course, being stainless steel, you've got a lot more strength to it. Another little tiny cork wing, this one.
Is that about the size of Mike?
No, it's still a little bit bigger than Michael's was. And Michael's was a ballon. Michael, can you swing the landing net over, please?
No.
I need to put the fish back in. Hold it up a little bit, we don't want it bashing itself on the rocks. There you go, Michael, thank you very much. Oh, for goodness sake, we weren't here the last... Oh no, it's weed. Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry. Oh, excellent, Rhi. Keep pressure on that. That's one we wanted. We're weighing that one in. Oh, sorry, Michael.
Give me some net for you.
Well, I can't do it.
I fall.
You don't mind?
Well, you won't be able to say that again. Excellent. Okay, steer him in a little bit. Yeah, you're just gonna have to shuffle the pole back a bit. Just lift him, bring him towards me.
I got it.
Yeah, walk backwards, Rhi. No. Here we go.
Oh,
Well done, Rhi.
I'm sorry, but that was your three.
I can't believe I dropped you as well.
There you go. Beautiful.
That was big out of water.
Let's get that. Let's get that weighed.
You're holding it up. You can hold it up.
Hold it?
Yeah. Get a picture.
Hold it?
Yeah.
That's
It'll look good for the YouTube.
wow.
It's a nice fishery.
I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I would think so too. Right, what I need you to do, we don't need this getting anywhere near the rock, so can you just hold that there for me, please? And then I can see where the hook is.
Quite a big barbs of these, isn't it?
Perfectly in the mouth.
I prefer a fish like that over my fruit.
I was trying to pull it up and I was like, my god, this is going to pull me in.
They go about 3 times the size.
What we'll do,
In the box.
need to get this one back in as soon as we can. This was Rhiannon's first large fish, so it was nice to be able to weigh it for her and give her an indication as to its size. Now, I like to land the fish in a landing net, and I like also to try and weigh them in the net if I can. That way it minimises the distress to the fish, and you can always get an accurate weight by then subtracting the weight of the wet net from the total weight recorded. In this case, the fish weighed £3 2 ounces in the net. Take away the weight of the net and it came down to £2 5 ounces. A nice fish. Right, Michael, let's get that back in the water as quickly as possible, please. Thank you. By this time, my GoPro had pretty much died. The battery had run out. So we thought, well, time to call it a night, really. Michael, however, who's a competitive little soul, couldn't bear to be beaten by his good lady friend Rhiannon. So he decided he was going to have one more flick of the pole, just in case. As I say, my GoPro battery had died, so we weren't able to include footage of him capturing a wrasse that was 2 ounces bigger than Rhiannon's, but he was chuffed. Rhiannon definitely wasn't. So something a bit different tonight. I hope that you enjoyed it. Certainly Michael, Rhiannon and I thoroughly enjoyed our time with the poles. And poles, even though they're designed for freshwater fishing, are an absolutely brilliant way for youngsters to get involved in sea fishing. They're just so simple to use. They can be adapted very easily too, and if you want me to produce a video showing how that adaptation is done, just let me know in the comments and I will try and build it into my schedule. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and if you would like to subscribe to our channel, that would be very much appreciated. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.